Hi, I'm Stephen Reichlin. Welcome to Barbecue University. What's the best meat for barbecue? Well, if you come from Texas, you'd probably say beef. And if you come from the deep south, you'd probably say pork. But on any given night, probably more grill jockeys around the world are grilling lamb than any other kind of meat. Which brings us to our first dish, shish kebab barbecue university style, with a college education. There are two choices for lamb, shoulder or leg. We're using leg here, which is a little leaner. And the lamb gets seasoned with a simple mixture of salt, freshly ground black pepper, and this is sort of interesting, dried mint, and of course plenty of chopped fresh garlic, and a little extra virgin olive oil to pull it all together. And when I marinate meat, I like to mix the ingredients together with my fingers. I find you get better coating when you mix with your fingers than a spoon or any other utensil. So the meat marinates for about 15 minutes, and while it does, let's talk about skewers. Now, when I was growing up, this was the sort of barbecue skewer we would use for making shish kebab. And the problem is, when you go to turn the meat, it spins on the skewer. So in the Middle East, people have developed these flat skewers, and that way when you turn the skewer, the meat stays in its proper orientation. Some other alternative, here's a flat bamboo skewer you can use to accomplish the same purpose, or a two-prong skewer, or you can even use a technique we call double skewering. Okay, just like this. Again, the idea is to keep the lamb in the right orientation. So in skewering the meat, we'll put a piece of lamb on the skewer and then a fresh mint leaf. And as you grill the lamb, the edges of the mint leaf are going to burn, releasing all those wonderful mint oils. This lamb will be incredibly aromatic. Now this recipe kind of is an example of the travails that food writers have sometimes when they go on research trips. I had heard about a Lebanese family in a small town in northern Pennsylvania that served an incredible dish called lamb on the rod. So I rented a car, I drove for 3 hours, I got to this town, and nobody had ever heard of the Lebanese family, much less lamb on the rod. So what you're tasting here is the way I imagine the dish was prepared. And you might be wondering, well, where the heck are the vegetables? Where are the onions? Where are the tomatoes? I'm going to show you in a minute. I like to fill the skewer up. It's a more generous portion. Just go maybe one more piece here. And you know, in terms of thinking about some variations here, these could certainly be whole basil leaves instead of the mint leaves. So there is our shish kebab. Now for the vegetables. You know, when I was growing up, we used to make shish kebab skewering the lamb alternating with the tomatoes and the onions. What would happen, of course, is the tomatoes would overcook and fall off the skewer before the lamb was done. So people in the Middle East actually skewer the vegetables and grill the vegetables separately. Now, for our plum tomatoes, I'm using this full inch-wide metal skewer, which is designed for soft, wet vegetables like tomatoes. And for the onions, we can use a medium-wide metal skewer and skewer first through the pointed part of the onion quarter that holds the various segments together. And what you wind up with are three exceedingly colorful, exceedingly flavorful vegetable skewers. Beauty of this method is you can cook each the amount of time it requires. The onions are going to take the longest, bell peppers the next longest, the tomatoes cook pretty quickly. Let me show you how to set up the grill. In keeping with the Middle Eastern origins of this recipe, we'll actually grill the lamb over charcoal. And I've lit my coals in a chimney starter. I'm going to dump out the coals. And then you can use your grill hoe to rake out the coals in a classic 3-zone fire. What the heck's that mean? Double thick layer of coals on one side for searing, single thick layer of coals in the center for cooking. No coals on the other side. That is your cool zone or safety zone. Let me show you something else that's really neat. These are wine barrel staves. They actually come from red wine barrels, and they've been cut into sticks for grilling. And if you smell these, you really smell the amazing fresh fruit flavor of the grape. So I'll toss a few of these soaked wine barrel staves on the fire, and that will give us an amazing aroma. And as always at Barbecue University, we keep it hot, we keep it clean, and keep it lubricated. This time I'm using a rolled cotton cloth rolled into a little egg roll shape and tied with string, and draw this across the bars of the grate to prevent sticking. So let's see. Onions are going to take the longest. So we'll put the onions on the grill first, and then the bell peppers. And whenever you're trying to grill lots of food, like a plate full of vegetables and lamb, cook the vegetables first. That's because vegetables taste great served at room temperature, whereas the lamb really should be served hot off the grill. So we have our onions and peppers, and finally you can put the tomatoes on the grill. And just keep everybody moving. So we'll give the peppers a quarter turn here. Okay, and the onions can go another minute. And I'll tell you what, I've made up a quick little basting mixture. This is a bit of finely chopped garlic and extra virgin olive oil. And I'll just brush it on the vegetables. That will give you flare-ups. By the way, that is a great way to show off when you're grilling for a crowd. Little salt and freshly ground black pepper. And of course, if you get a flare-up or things start cooking too quickly, no need to panic. Just simply move them to a cooler part of the grill. Okay? So the whole idea here, folks, is you want to stay in control. You want to control the fire. You don't want it to control you. Okay, so check the tomatoes, good, and they are searing beautifully, so I'll turn the tomatoes over. Remember, these metal skewers get really hot, so use a good, heavy suede glove for moving the tomatoes. There are few things more inviting than the smell of fresh vegetables on the grill. And once again, things cook too quickly, just move them over. Here you go, and we have one extra piece, so we'll just do a little Barbecue University quality control test. Yum. Once the onions are nicely brown, we can pull them off to the side of the grill. Notice I'm constantly playing with the fire. In fact, that's why I love this business so much. Moving coals, moving wood, moving foods from the hot spots to the cold spots. That's really what this whole grilling game is about. So now we can put our lamb kebabs on the grill. Now here, I want to just show you, this is a perfect example of grill control. Fire is hotter on this side than in the center. So as I go to turn this outside kebab, I'll move it out, and then I'll move in the more slower cooking lamb that was on the inside. And we can do the same thing here. We'll just rotate this one out. Oh man, look at that. That looks pretty luscious. You can see how the flat skewer keeps the lamb pieces from spinning. Remember, every fire is going to be different. Every fire is going to have its hot spots and cool spots. So by keeping the food moving, that's how you wind up with consistent results. You want the lamb to be charred and crusty on the outside, but still tender and moist inside. I like my lamb medium. And the way I tell, it's the old poke test. You want the meat to feel gently yielding. people in the Middle East tend to eat their lamb medium to medium well. And don't forget, turn your onions, make sure they're cooking evenly. And I'll tell you what, it never hurts to baste anything with a little garlic oil. There are all sorts of sauces you could serve with the shish kebab. When I was growing up, we'd actually brush the lamb with traditional sweet, smoky American barbecue sauce. All right, we're pretty close here. Finally, the last thing to do here is just reinforce the salt and pepper flavor. And I can tell the kebabs are done. So just transfer the kebabs to a platter. Let's see, 1, 2. Oh man, if that is not a feast for the eyes. Our grilled peppers, grilled onions, and last of all, our grilled tomatoes. And let me show you how this thing looks when you put it all together on a plate.